Okay. And we are live. This is Masculine Geek number 88. Special guest, Ishiro Ishi Finney.
Yep.
He is an author, a podcaster, and an overall badass. And as you can see, I'm wearing this special shirt, which happens to be ARKHAM CASEFILE's Her Blood Runs Cold, the artwork on the cover of this graphic novel. This is the second one in the series, correct?
Right.
Yeah, Ishi? No. Cool.
They're written so you can approach either first, as kind of the old noir novels were.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the second one.
All right, cool. Now we got our start together as far as knowing each other on Twitter, and what happened was there was a discussion about large tits. It had to do with Japanese animation tits and the pros and cons. As far as I'm concerned, there's no cons. They're all pros. And then your co-host on your podcast, her large tits. So
yes. Between
these two conversations and her chiming in on this Twitter thread, I'm like, this is a conversation I can get behind, and this is a man after my own heart. So let's talk on Twitter. So, and here we are.
Oh, absolutely. Well, first and foremost, yes, I am a fan of large tits through and through, unapologetically.
I can drink to that.
What's not to like about large tits?
Mm-hmm.
And my, as you said, co-host and wife, Kat Rocha, is definitely more than above average. Endowed.
She's well endowed.
I saw her avatar. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Okay, well, the avatar is a slight exaggeration, but she is pretty stacked.
Nothing wrong with that.
Really, initially, it started out years ago when we first broke into the comic industry, and she got so much crap for having big tits with all the feminists and SJW types.
Really?
And it was just mean. I mean, it was really downright mean. And so after, she tells it better than I do. But after that point, she and I, we were so annoyed with it. I pretty much told her, you know what? Screw it. Every book I do, I'm going to have a woman that's at least as stacked as you are. And I'm just putting it in there.
Nice.
And if they don't like it, too damn bad.
If they don't like it, tough titties.
Exactly.
But I was about to say too, real quick. This is get this. It didn't take me, but I spread this out over 2 days because I was enjoying it. I wanted to finish it in one. It's one of those graphic novels you can just go through in one fell swoop and just enjoy the fuck out of it. I wanted to savor it. The writing is superb. The artwork is fantastic, and this is worth your time, attention, your money. And then I'll show that in a second. And then this shirt from Redbubble is probably one of the softest shirts and most comfortable shirt I've ever owned. So there you go. You get some sexy artwork on a shirt that's comfortable for you. All right, let's share this out. We're gonna
hang on, Vince. Hang on a goddamn second.
Go ahead. I'm not done.
I know, but you didn't mention the other part about the shirt.
Oh, that's right. You are correct, Rob. You are correct. Rob and I were discussing this. This is probably the icing on the cake for this shirt. When my glasses get dirty, this shirt cleans them like nobody's fucking business. This is a fantastic. So it's a dual purpose. It's great to look at. It's great to wear, and it's great for cleaning your glasses if you have glasses. If you don't, then I don't know what to tell you. You can clean anything with it, I suppose, but it's best to wear it.
You can touch your testicles with it.
You touch your testicles. You can show off your guns. It's all
you
good.
Show off razor blades, whatever.
Show off
you can clean your fucking razor blades with it.
There you go, Bull Rush. You can buy this. You can get this. It's sexy. It's got a sexy woman on with big tits, and you can clean your razor blades.
And it's available on Redbubble, and it's a pretty high quality shirt.
Oh, it absolutely is. So there we go. Okay, well, all right. There you go.
So I popped up a picture here of my lovely wife, Kat. As you can see, yes, she is indeed.
Holy fuck!
She's stacked.
Yeah, that's an understatement. That's not too far off from the avatar. Let me tell you that right now.
And for those curious, that is an H cup.
So she.
Jesus, I didn't realize there was an H cup. Jesus Christ.
I'm really trying not to get too goddamn personal here.
I know,
it's
right?
you
It's
can
you're talking about
fucking
your wife
motorboat
here.
that one all day long.
She has a sense of humor about it. She doesn't mind.
I gathered that from the
If
Twitter feed.
if she didn't want people to notice, she'd hide them. So
Mhm.
she's
You
kind of
can't
got
hide
the.
She would
those.
need a very big fucking sweater.
Yeah,
Seriously,
that is true, actually.
some major sweater kittens.
But back in the day when we first started, they were just the meanest comments. I think the meanest one was like, honey, no one's going to take you seriously unless you cut those things off. I was just like, what the heck? And these were always the little clique of industry feminists that, wanted her to join the club and she wouldn't. And it's just like, you know what? Screw it. Every book, I don't care. Even if it's a prose story, every book, I'm going to have a character who's as stacked as my wife and deal with it.
Absolutely.
And I'm not even going to make a big deal of it. I'm just putting it in there.
I think that's the way to go. And I'm sure it's worked, actually. It's kind of like, fuck you. Cool.
Yeah,
all right. So
we've gotten our share of complaints.
all right. Good, Rob.
I can't even imagine who would complain about boobies.
And women
My
that
God.
don't have them.
Yeah,
It's
have
just
them.
got to be the flat titty committee is all I can figure.
The itty bitty titty committee. Yeah.
Them guys, or them women, or whatever they are. It's like I cannot imagine. It's like Jesus. All right. Anyway, there's my little 2-second rant.
There you go. The titty rant. So this is a great start. I'm liking it already. So speaking of starts, graphic novellas and whatnot, how did you get your start in this? And is that your preferred method of telling a story?
Yeah, absolutely. We did start around 2007, in which Kat and I did a graphic novel called Utopiates. It was a black and white book. It was, it came out at the wrong time because it was cyberpunk when nobody cared. I mean, everyone cares now, so maybe I should re-release it.
Yeah, right.
But it is available on Amazon. It was called Utopiates. It was kind of like, what would be the drug culture in a Blade Runner setting? And so it was about this whole idea that there had been this psychiatric drug where you could inject a personality and it would you would have that personality for a certain amount of time. And, there were combat uses and psychiatric uses. And it hits the street, and that was the story. And it was just kind of vignettes around that world. And it was an indie book, black and white. It did well enough, and it did well enough to draw the attention of a company called ARKHAM, who picked us up. And I took an even more ambitious project, was a sci-fi fighter pilot story set in a world where China was in a civil war and the world gets drawn into it. I intend to eventually get back to that one. First graphic novel came out, did really, really well, and then they got bought out by Boom, and Boom had no interest in it. And we saw by 2009 where the industry was going. We saw how much it became all about Hollywood, and all this woke crap was already beginning to take over when Hollywood took over. And really, that's how I think comics got woke. I think comics got woke because Hollywood took over the industry. And that was the fatal flaw. I just never thought it would get this bad. So seeing where things were going and realizing that, I don't think another company is ever going to pick up one of my books because I just don't write that kind of stuff. Kat and I decided to dive into doing our own publishing company and self-publishing. We did our first book was called, we did a reprint of Utopiates, which did okay. We did a book called World War Kaiju, which was my retelling of the Cold War as instead of it being about nuclear missiles, it's about atomic monsters.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's very satirical. And so the Manhattan Project produced a Godzilla-like kaiju. And after the war, once Russia gets the technology, there's an arms race for kaiju.
Nice. So they're fighting over monsters.
Right. And again, another oddball project that did well enough, but I guess everyone was expecting more of a Pacific Rim sort of thing. So it did well enough. Then we did CASEFILE ARKHAM, and I did that with Patrick McAvoy. Right place at the right time. People were really into Lovecraftian stuff, and setting it in a noir setting just really worked. It worked exceptionally well, and that one did really good, and it did so well that we went and did a second immediately after.
Cool.
And the first book is on its second reprinting. It did so well.
Oh, okay.
And both are available on Amazon right now.
Nice. If you want to drop a link in the private chat, I can share that out. And your publishing company is 01 Publishing?
Yeah.
Okay. I like the byline, no safe space.
Exactly.
Very cool.
I mean, our feeling is that's all the trigger warning you're going to get.
Mm-hmm. That's enough. Everyone is on their way to being adults, and that should be part of it, not being triggered. All right, so here we go. All right.
But we wanted the audience to see that logo and know immediately what they were going to get. They weren't going to get the tamed down, weak kid stuff. We weren't going to hold your hand. We weren't going to preach at you. We were going to tell you a damn good story for an adult audience.
Mm-hmm. That's the way to do it. That is the way to do it. So here we go. We've got the case file. So Nightmare on the Canvas. That's the first one.
Right.
Okay, I need to pick that one up. All right, cool.
And I think you'll be subtly surprised that it is a completely different kind of story.
Cool.
It's more along the lines of a on the tail of a serial killer type tale, but it's Lovecraftian.
Gotcha. Yeah, the whole anytime you can go back to Innsmouth and the Innsmouth tales and add to that and put your own spin on it is fantastic. Yeah, I enjoyed this a lot. This was good. It's a good start, and I'm looking forward to the first one. So when did you do you do any of the artwork yourself, or is you're doing all the storytelling?
Well, I did all the writing, yes.
Okay.
I did a little bit of the artwork, but I mean, it's kind of minor, so we didn't really credit me.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few shots of there's the skyscraper where, oh wait, no, that's the first one. Sorry, I did that one. But no, there's little things like certain panels that were architecture or just urban. There's a few where I did them, but on the whole, it was primarily Patrick. But we had a very unique way of working. Since I had started doing my own comics, I found it really hard to script without having control of the panel layout and the flow. So we did something that apparently some people call this the Frank Miller style. I don't know. I didn't realize anyone had done it before. But here's a side-by-side comparison.
All right. Let me make that large screen. Oh, wow.
As you can see, I took various shots from noir films that I thought worked, or just angles, and I put them in. And you can see how Patrick took the spirit of the idea, but changed it up entirely.
Yeah. Wow, that's really good.
You can also see that I provided him with all the speech bubbles, or at least rough versions. So he knew how much room he had to work with, and how the story was going to flow. Now I'll show you a few others. This one here, you can see how he made changes and which ones he used. But the reason I really liked doing this was, again, it let me use the panel beats. I could control the speed of the story and how words hit the page and when by way of laying it out.
Gotcha. Now, is the inking done digitally, or is it the old-fashioned art of inking with the pen?
The first book, I think, the first chapter was inked old-fashioned, and then we went straight digital. Okay. And I think Patrick's reaction was, geez, why hadn't I been doing this all along?
Yeah, right. Seriously. I can imagine the time save and the wear and tear on your hand.
Yeah, and often what I would do is I'd go through and I'd clean up the lines and I'd make sure all the blacks were 100% black and all the whites were 100% white. That was just a pain in the ass. So doing digital just was wonderful.
All right, cool. Yeah, I see that. Wow, that's really cool.
So anyway, yeah, that's how both books were done this way.
All right. It's cool to see the back end, kind of like how the sausage is made, as it were. Nice.
And I remember for a while, Patrick said, well, you don't have to lay out every page. And so I stopped, and then he came back about a week later and said, you know what?
Lay out every page. Oh, that's funny. It's like, wait a minute, this is really helpful. Bring those back. Okay, and you've done this for all the graphic novels,
right? Okay,
sweet.
Well, Kat and I did the artwork for Utopiates and Titanium Rain, which were the books we did for Bloodfire Studios and the ARKHAM.
Okay.
And then after that, Kat decided she was more interested in doing the business end, and I wanted to focus more on the writing. I felt I really didn't quite have enough talent to be cranking out book after book after book. I worked real slow when I was doing the art.
Gotcha.
Okay, that's it for sharing.
No, that's fine. That's cool. And welcome to James. James, say hello to Ishi.
Hey.
Or Ishiro.
Yeah, how you doing?
Very nice to meet you, sir.
Nice to meet you. So you died and rose from the grave and got onto the show, right?
That's
and then got onto the show. Well, I might have stopped at Wawa first.
Wawa is always really a start for resurrection.
So what'd you get at Wawa's?
This fine water bottle, a mug of excellent selection.
Oh, okay. You see, okay, I understand that. That's totally understandable.
I can't remember whether or not I carried that to the coffin with me, or if I got that at Wawa. It's been a bit of a blur.
It usually is when you first wake up from death. That's what happens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I remember seeing something about a D&D game tonight, but YouTube.
That's not tonight.
Me.
Yeah, that's the 14th.
I know that now.
Yeah.
I know that now. That's not tonight.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're fucking late.
You're late. This is the new
spoiler alert for the chat.
Yeah, this is in case no one noticed.
To be here.
Yeah, seriously. Now, this is the new third masculine geek. TJ stepped down, as everyone knows, and James is taking his spot, graciously taking his spot. And he not only did he miss the newsletter, but he's now late. So
indeed. I only missed the newsletter insofar as I did not submit it at the appropriate time, which is the definition of missing it.
Yeah, correct. So,
but if I over-define it, maybe I could make it seem less bad.
No, it's pretty bad.
Keep spinning. Keep spinning.
It's too funny. So, Ishi, you also do, and I need to delve into it as well, but you do a podcast called The Writer's Room. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Okay, well, I need to get that started back up. Ever since the plague hit, everybody was so distracted doing other stuff. The show kind of took a hiatus, but it really needs to have a comeback. We found that there were plenty of shows out there either talking about content or it was artists talking about the art of doing comics. But there really was nothing out there for writers. And so Professor Geek, Buddy Lord, William, horrible, I don't remember his last name right now. We all decided, we'll start doing a weekly show where we'll just tackle various writing techniques and subjects. And the audience can send us questions and interact. And it went really well. It was very enjoyable. And we've got some other less intensive shows we're doing now. The thing that kind of stopped the writer's room was that we all got really busy with our lives, and it took some planning beforehand to set up. We've got some other ones now where we just kind of go live and wing it. I think the most popular show we have is called Adventures in Awful Live.
Oh yes, I see the Twitter posts all the time about that. Yeah,
in which I will find various Marvel and DC novels, YA novels. I've gotten a few Star Wars ones too, and I will unleash them on Kat, and she'll do a blind reading of the first chapter and just react.
Pardon me. Oh shit. Okay, that's kind of cool, actually.
Yeah. For some reason, that's our most popular show. Is her tearing into these horribly written books.
People like that. They like it seems like it might be negative, but when it comes across in like a mischievous, fun way,
yeah,
that seems to be attractive. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's kind of a mystery science theater quality to it, and I think
Exactly.
right now, I'll just, without trying to be mean, there is so many untalented people being paid to create content that shouldn't be given the time of day. I mean, stuff that wouldn't have made it past a high school creative writing class.
Wizards of the Coast,
Junior
what?
high. Oh my
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, talk about topical.
I mean, there's one person I will
Seriously.
slam. There's one person I will slam because he's just such a jerk.
Please do.
Chuck Wendig.
Yes, that
We
fucking
did a
cock.
Chuck Wendig book, and it wasn't even prose writing. It was just like sentence fragments. It looked like somebody had taken the bare bones of a movie script and just chopped it up and tried to pass it off as a book. And that, I think, was the worst one we read, because we didn't, by the end of it, we're like, this isn't even really a story. This is a collection of sentences that don't really relate.
If 5,000 monkeys were at a typewriter, but the only keys that worked were space, hyphen, and backspace.
Yeah.
And they were given a script to tinker with.
Right.
So he has produced one of my all-time favorite bad writing lines, which is, the TIE fighter bobbed and weaved hercules-jerkily across the rooftops, then hyphen.
Oh my God. That line
it's like
so god awful.
It's like reading something from Christopher Walken. Everything's completely disconnected.
In the episode we did for Adventures in Awful, that line, we spent a while just ranting on it because it was so bad.
Jesus Christ.
I think I have like 3 hyphenated sentences total in Eyes of the Forest.
Probably too much.
Here's the thing: if I'm going to do a sudden, like, if one of us were to do a sudden perspective shift, we would want it to have some kind of impact, you know. And so maybe we wouldn't do it every third half of a sentence.
You dilute it, you make it worthless.
Yeah, it just becomes unreadable. It's hieroglyphics.
Although I'll have to say, I think the funniest show we did, after reading a whole bunch of really bad YA Marvel and DC books, like we did Faith, First Flight, we did a Captain Marvel book, we did Squirrel Girl. I decided, we were getting so sick of really badly written, YA stuff that was on bookstore shelves. I found this really bad She-Hulk erotic fanfic that were actually being sold on Amazon as She-Hulk Smash. And it had a picture of She-Hulk on the cover. So I gave it to her to read on the Kindle. And it was better written.
Jesus Christ. That's funny. Yeah.
She-Hulk Smash.
Shit that's coming in of Marvel.
Why does that sound like Bigfoot erotica to me? Why? Oh God!
It was thoroughly bizarre because at one point the lead character was like this She-Hulk fanboy, gets captured by a villain, they have sex, and then they sit around and talk about Ninja Turtles. And it's like, what the hell?
Nobody wants to read or see this shit. Nobody wants to see Hulk, scrambling eggs. It's just like, come on, for fuck's sake. Unbelievable. So is there anything in particular you're working on now that's taking up your time?
Well, currently, with just the way that the comics industry is going, and I'm in search of a new artist, but I'll get into that later. I've been focusing on doing prose stories. I've had a number of stories that I had started writing back in the day, or between comics projects, and of course, then the next book would come up and I wouldn't finish the story. And so I just figured now, I've been in the industry for 12 years. Maybe now it's time to actually finish that novel, finish those short stories and publish them.
Yeah.
And I've started doing that. Let's see if I can open these up. I am going to start writing CASEFILE ARKHAM novels as well, because I really want to do that.
Yeah, that's going to be badass. I was going to ask if that's was something you were going to do.
Well,
Okay,
the thing is, in the comics format, there were so many things I had to cut in the investigation or just little details that, there's such a cost of page real estate. You can only put so much there.
Yeah.
So I've right now I'm working on a novel, but as that happens, I've been slowly releasing short stories. This was the first one I released, called Scars, which is a sci-fi story of a different kind. It's about a fallen astronaut who, after being critically injured in a satellite repair, is grounded on Earth. He's dealing with losing a leg, and they give him a service animal that happens to be a hyper-intelligent rat. And
Cool.
it is it's a buddy tale. It's a kind of a buddy story. A lot of people are surprised. This is not for kids. But that was very satisfying to write. And then another one that I did more recently. Let's see if I can.
Now, when you say hyper intelligent rat, he talks, right?
Well, sort of, yeah. He's a genetically modified rat that also has cybernetics, and he can send the astronaut text messages.
That's pretty fucking funny.
So the rat doesn't actually say words.
Gotcha.
He never gets a text-to-speech device?
No.
That's next.
It's still cool.
That's the second book.
People have been kind of describing it as a boy and his dog meets the rats of Nim.
Oh, cool. It's a fantastic cartoon, and can't go wrong with Boy and His Dog.
Harlan Ellison, one of my favorites. So Death War Grease Paint is thoroughly different. After a heartwarming buddy tale about an astronaut and his rat, I do Death War Grease Paint, which is probably the funniest thing I've ever written. It's Lovecraftian. It's about a TV clown who works at a public access station in Michigan in the middle of nowhere. He goes on vacation. He is awoken to the H.P. Lovecraft lore and becomes a part of the Cthulhu cult.
Nice.
And when he comes back, he starts integrating elements of it into the show for the kids.
Oh, God. Talk about subversion.
Yeah, and eventually the show starts to become a ritual.
No pun intended. Cool.
And both books are 99 cents on Kindle, or if you're doing Kindle Unlimited, it's free. You can just read it for free.
Cool.
So, and that's basically what I've got going right now. Beyond that, like I said, I've got this novel I'm writing called Machine Child, which I think is a real mouthful to describe. So I'm not sure we should tackle that quite yet. Oh, whoa, that was weird.
That was weird.
Anybody else space out for a moment?
I phased out for like 10 seconds, and then Ishiro dropped out for a second.
I have no idea.
That's weird. Oh, well.
I lost track of everybody.
Yeah. And then we've got... All right, so we don't need that anymore? Or is it you?
No, I just put it down.
Gotcha. Why is it still there? What the hell is going on? Let's see. Let me kick it from the studio and see what happens. Hopefully we don't lose you. No, it's... If I try to do the screen share, it's trying to kick you out. Oh, well. Fucking StreamYard.
There we go. I got rid of it.
All right, cool. Nice. I look forward to the novelizations of the ARKHAM, the CASEFILE ARKHAM.
Now, allow me to integrate some subplots that you might have come across that didn't really pan out.
No worries. Now, obviously, you're a huge H.P. Lovecraft fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. How far does... I always ask people who are H.P. Lovecraft fans, when did you get into that? What was the turning point?
Well, it always had been kind of something adjacent to me throughout, junior high and high school. I knew people that were really into the Chaosium games. So there was always a passing familiarity. A lot of friends were really obsessed with it. And then we decided we were going to do some Lovecraftian anthologies through 01 Publishing, where we were going to have people submitting Lovecraftian stories, because there were a lot of anthologies coming out at the time, and I didn't think any of them were all that good. I thought, aside from maybe some ones that were full of A-listers, there were a lot of really bad, or, to be honest, woke Lovecraftian anthologies. And we're like, nah, I think I can do better. So I decided, well, if I was going to publish with Cat a Lovecraft anthology, I should sit down and know his work inside and out. So I literally read everything by him, all of his works. And so that was when it went from me being kind of a lukewarm casual fan to like the expert. And then when I did CASEFILE ARKHAM, I did real deep research into understanding where those stories came from and why.
Absolutely. No, I know, Rob, have you delved into any H.P. Lovecraft? I know you're familiar with him, but
I've got one of his kind of best of anthologies, I guess you would say. And I've read a little bit of his stuff on and off. I know who, I'm not even sure how to fucking pronounce it, but Cthulhu?
Yeah, that's what everyone says.
Yeah.
yeah.
I understand, the general idea of the dark gods. And for me, it's definitely appealing, I guess, that, you've got these cruel ancient beings that want to more or less destroy everything. And so that I kind of like, but I haven't delved too deep into it, I guess. I'm only scraping the surface of it at this time. So,
well, I will say that his writing can be pretty unapproachable at times.
really?
Well, the language he uses is archaic. It's often overwritten. There are a few stories where he just writes straight pulp, and it's like, damn, you actually know how to pace a story. You're doing this intentionally. There's often ones where there's lots of meandering in them. And
Yes. I've found that in a couple of the stories I've read, that his describing the scene, it's like, yeah, I got it. I hate to be the guy that's too long didn't read, because I don't want to be that guy, but sometimes that's how it comes across to me.
But
And
I
it's
was
like,
gonna,
let's
I was
move on.
going to say is what I found worked for me is his work sounds so much better when someone's reading it. He's one of those writers where on the page it's kind of impenetrable at times. Hearing them read aloud by a professional, you get it. It's there. You can hear it.
Yeah.
And there are
Nice.
some really good productions.
Yeah, Dark Arts Adventure Theater does a lot of dramatizations. I mean,
Yeah.
they're watered down for time,
Oh, are
obviously.
they?
Yeah, but they follow the stories. They don't deviate from the story, but there's things that are compressed or either left out because of the you'd be there all day.
Well, the audiobooks on Audible actually are really, really good. And that's how I pretty much devoured everything he did. I read some of the stories I did find approachable, though, was like Pickman's Model.
Yes.
And that's another one you're like, you don't have to write this way. You actually have a skill for dialogue. Why don't you use it more?
Yeah, he was very, very scant on dialogue. He was more in exposition.
Yeah, where
just more descriptions.
Pickman's Model was entirely a conversation, and it was all dialogue. And it's like, you're really good at dialogue. Why don't you write more of it?
Yeah.
That might have been his only, last drop in the orange, that before it got completely juiced.
Yeah, right. He's like one and done. I'm finished.
Exactly. I can now say that I did it, and I never have to do it again.
Yeah. I mean,
I just all the works are public domain, if I'm correct. I just pulled up the At the Mountains of Madness, and it's very
his estate never renewed the copyright.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think actually saved him. I mean, if he had been copywritten, he may have disappeared like so many other writers. But because he wasn't copywritten, that he was public domain, all these other A-listers who loved his work popularized him. Now,
Yeah,
Robert
August
Bloch-
Turlough. Yeah.
Yeah, well, Robert Bloch,
Yeah.
Matheson, Harlan Ellison, Stephen King, they've all played in his universe and brought people to him because of that.
Yeah, it's true. I didn't even think about that.
And as far as the racism thing goes,
No, for fuck's
no.
sake. Yeah.
I think there's the racism thing. I think that's an unfair judgment of Lovecraft.
Absolutely.
And I will say, because whenever you hear about it, you only hear certain groups he hated. That's all you hear about. But the fact of the matter is the man was a shut-in. He'd seen both his parents die of mental illness. He thought he was going to enter a life of luxury and being a rich kid. And then as a child, I think it was 13, 14, he gets tossed out and living with his aunt, who also wasn't that fun to be with. His mother tried to raise him as a girl and was always putting him in dresses. So he wasn't all that well to begin with. And really, when you read about the way he thought, it was less that he was racist and more like he was terrified of everything. Yeah. Literally everything scared him. And it wasn't just you never hear about how much Lovecraft wrote screeds of how much he hated the Irish, which he did. You never hear about his hatred of the Louisianans, which he did, or Eskimos, or he literally was afraid of everybody.
Yes, he was. Yeah.
And I think it was that mindset that allowed him to produce these cosmic monsters that were beyond understanding. It was that his fearing the world so much that he put it into kind of this embodiment as the old gods. Yeah,
that's how it translated in his mind. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, anytime I hear that, it's. I've been going to the H.P. Lovecraft, the Necronomicon in Providence, H.P. Lovecraft Literary Convention since 2013, and it happens every 2 years. I don't know if they're going to have it next year, but every year it gets more woke. The panels go off on this kind of bullshit, and I'm like, I don't fucking care. I'm not here for that. It really is. I'm not here for that. I mean, I don't go to too many panels anyway. I was in a few. Not this past one, I guess 2017, I was on a couple panels, but that was my only involvement as far as attending, was actually being on a fucking panel. The rest is just socializing. You're going to the dealer room and socializing with my friends and eating and drinking. That's pretty much why I go. See people I haven't seen in 2 years. So,
well, my opinion is I think if these establishments, and let's face it, the comics community, the sci-fi lit community, fantasy, you name it, they're always bitching about old white guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? These things all exist because old white guys built them.
Yeah, they leave that part out conveniently.
Yeah, they worked their ass off to popularize these genres, to make these conventions, to make these publishing houses. Often these same old white men suffered through high school, getting their asses kicked for being into uncool stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dealing with public scorn. And if they're not going to appreciate that, why we let these assholes into our house to begin with, I don't know. They're obviously not spending money, and they obviously hate us. Mm-hmm. But my feeling is, if this is the direction it's going to go, then we just got to build our own new place that's for us.
Yeah, we've talked about that on numerous occasions. Yeah,
thank you. Yes.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to do. I mean, with Masculine Geek, and there's others out there. That's the idea.
Cool.
We can only demonstrate by our actions. I mean, we can't physically change people's minds, but we can. You start changing it by showing the behavior that you want to see out there. So
even just by documenting. And not letting these certain things get memory hold is vital work. Like what you two do, what you two started, just allowing people to see there are other things out there besides whatever is culturally approved in 20 years or 50 years. Like we mentioned it. Listen, Ishiro, you mentioned the fact that Lovecraft moved into the public domain.
Right.
and his works were saved as a result. I am thinking of so many authors who hold really an equal importance in terms of the fantasy of the 20th century who didn't benefit from that. People like Jack Vance, people like Dunsany in particular was a lot of the inspiration for Tolkien. Tolkien is largely derivative of him, and that's not a slam on Tolkien by any stretch of the imagination. But, Lovecraft and Dunsany were in pretty regular communication. They adored each other's work.
Yeah, actually,
Yeah.
Dunsany was a big influence on Lovecraft.
Exactly. You have people like Roger Zelazny and Leigh Brackett and Merritt, and there's all these people who just got memory hold. American authors, people who could be a staple of American culture today. We didn't have the benefit of the internet back then, so they just disappear. But nowadays, we don't have to go through publishers anymore.
Well,
exactly.
my question to you is, what are you doing? You say that you're actually trying to preserve these authors. What are you doing?
Preserve these what?
These authors, so they don't get memory hold.
One, just telling people about them.
Ah, okay.
And making sure that their works are on hand, not spreading piracy, but if there was to be a peer-to-peer, not violating anything that has to do with their,
give a caveat.
any other legal disclaimer that could possibly be applied. Making sure that they're on hand to show people, like, I'm in a lot of tabletop role-playing groups, and somebody will say, oh, well, this was, it's okay for this game to be a derivative of this game because it's all derivative of Tolkien. And I say, actually. And I do it in that really smarmy accent where I say, actually. And I have to protrude my buck teeth to really sell the image. Even though they can't see it because it's a forum. They can't see it, but I need to get into the mindset. And I will just spam them with like, hey, there are all these other authors. You can find them on the cheap. Many of them you can find for free. And if you're short on cash, please just DM me so I can show you these things. Reading what is it? Not Eyes of the Overworld, The Dying Earth, the original collection of short stories. Man, it's going to take you an afternoon. And you're gonna love it. If for nothing else, you're gonna love it for your tabletop game or something like that. So I think we're doing, all of us. Rob's doing it. TJ's doing it. Vince is doing it. Everybody in the audience is doing it at some point, making changes the way changes are made nowadays, which I think is peer-to-peer.
Yep.
Well, on that note, since we're now talking about preservation and things not getting memory hold, with that game CyberPunk 2077 coming out, suddenly Cyberpunk has become cool again, along with Altered Carbon and some other things. And the level of woke shit they're trying to cram into it is just unbelievable. Unfrickin' believable. And I don't know, about a month or so ago, in a used bookstore, I came across some of the old cyberpunk novels that nobody remembers from the 80s. I mean, we all know Gibson and Bruce Sterling and John Shirley, but there were all these other authors who produced great works that nobody remembers. And I picked a few up, and I started reading them. And I'm like, I miss this. I miss a time when you had characters who weren't Mary Sue's, when you had writers who had a writing style, not this crap we're getting now. I mean, an actual style and rhythm to how they write. And, innovative ideas, not just a big pile of pop culture references like Ready Player One, which is not cyberpunk. That is pop culture reference, the movie or novel. And then, so I started digging around saying, okay, well, where can I find more of these books? Let's get a comprehensive list of all these forgotten books. Didn't exist. There was no list. And even worse is I was coming across more and more cyberpunk sites that what they were calling cyberpunk was so out of left field. I mean, the worst of the worst was Neon Dystopia, which once had been a good site, actually claiming The Handmaid's Tale and iRobot were cyberpunk.
No.
And yeah. And
Jesus
they were
Christ.
listing Margaret Atwood as one of the great cyberpunk writers. It's like, you're on crack.
Seriously, crack
So-
and some other form of psychedelic.
So I said, screw it. You know what? I'm going to go out and I'm going to get every one of these old books that nobody remembers and preserve them so they still exist. And then I am going to do, it's a definitive catalog
Oh, okay. Let's
and
go
do
over
it
here.
right. And this is a current project of mine.
Oh, let me share this out. This is pretty badass. Cool.
CyberPunk source code online.
Let's go do this.
And it's still in a state of working development. The most complete section is the novels.
Cool. I like the layout.
Thank you.
Yeah, good job.
But, you
Let's
know,
go full screen. Let's
That
take
is a
look.
hell of a banner, my man. That is gorgeous.
It
Thank
draws you right in. You're like, oh, you want to know more. Okay, so that's okay. There's Utopiates. Cool. Sex, drugs, and biotech. Why not? All right, so you've got the Akira still. Let's go to novels. Proto Cyberpunk, first wave, second wave, the Diamond Age, and the third wave, Revival, 2002
right
to now. Yeah, okay.
And yeah, I'm going through and I'm cataloging all these books that no one remembers. And after that, hopefully when I get a little more money, I'm going to look into seeing if any of these people want to be republished.
Seriously, yeah.
But in the FAQ, there are two that I just felt needed to be stated. Just needed to be stated. And the first one being nostalgia. Much of what is passed off as cyberpunk these days, in truth, is just retro 80s nostalgia. Synthwave, neon, and 80s haircuts aren't intrinsically cyberpunk. If your favorite novel, game, synthwave band isn't included, this is probably the reason why. And yes, this is why Ernest Cline's Ready Player One will never be listed here. And then another one was woke politics. Cyberpunk has always had a socio-political bent, but what it isn't is woke. Political screeds and propaganda masquerading as narrative fiction, music, etc. are excluded from this site.
Fantastic. I like it.
So that's
like
another project of mine I've been slowly hammering away at.
Okay. And I did not know this. So there's a separate Japanese cyberpunk category?
Well, I chose to make that separate because Japanese cyberpunk, while it was influenced by American cyberpunk, it really is unique. It has its own tone to it. It doesn't quite follow all the same tropes, and it's interpreted in a different way because of their culture being so radically different to our own. I mean, they have an interesting relationship to the West, but they're at heart an animist culture, and that you can see that in their portrayal of technology, where we're very materialist, so we see the machine as being the machine. There still is this undercurrent of, well, there's the god of the spirit of the rice, the spirit of the mountains, the spirit of the water, right?
Yeah.
And you start getting like the notion of spirits in the internet, which is a whole genre of horror essentially over there. There's also the fact that so much of it came out in the form of manga and anime, so a lot of the old tropes of anime got woven in there as well.
Yeah.
So it's just got a different vibe to it.
Okay.
If Gundam had been made in the West, I don't think we would have put new types into it. I don't think we would have introduced a supernatural element to a mech show.
Well, there's an interesting connection there, because I can tell you, well, if Gundam was done in America, right?
Right.
Are you a Gundam fan?
I'm a new Gundam fan.
Okay, well,
I'm working my way through the original Gundam.
Apparently, Gundam was made directly as an inspiration from Heinlein's Starship Troopers.
Ooh.
So there you go. There's the difference. We've got
Yeah.
Starship Troopers, and look how the Japanese approached the concept.
That is such a radically different execution that I would not have made that connection unless you had told me.
Yeah, apparently the creator just loved Starship Troopers and wanted to do something like that.
Cool.
I
Now-
can see that being up Tomino's alley. I think it was Tomino.
I don't know. My wife's the huge Gundam fan, actually. So I couldn't say.
Understandable.
Cool. Rob,
Actually-
you were a CyberPunk player, weren't you? And Game Master.
Correct. Yes, I was. I was involved for quite a few years with
That
Cyberpunk
was a great game.
2020. That was absolutely. I liked it because the rules were very simple and they were very brutal. And that's what I loved about it. And the guys that I DM'd or game mastered or whatever you want to call it, they loved it because I guess I knew how to tell a story, because there were sometimes we literally never rolled the dice just because the story
best games,
was
man.
interesting.
Yeah.
But then there were other times where a dice roll, literally one dice roll, cost you your character. That's how brutal the rules could be. And so I totally loved Cyberpunk just because it was very fast, very loose. They didn't, when I think about it, I go back to Dungeons and Dragons second edition, AD&D. And they had the player's guide, which was, I don't know, 100 and some odd pages or so. And then they had the Dungeon Master's Guide, which was like 450,000 pages. It was a fucking Bible of all the rules, all the bullshit you had to do. And then here comes Cyberpunk. And it's like, here's the rules, do what you will with them. And it's like, oh, I love this. And it was very fast paced. I've never been a big fan of the deities and demigods type of thing that Dungeons and Dragons did. I was never a big fan of magic. And so the idea of technology, the more, metal is better than meat. The idea that the more tech you had added to you, your empathy went down, and ultimately you could become a psychopath, and then your character would end up in my hands. and I had guys that pulled some amazing shit against some of the bosses, I guess if you want to call it that in today's parlance. The big guys that I would throw at them, they would roll some incredible rolls and find that one little teeny tiny port that would lead down to the death of the Death Star. And it was amazing to watch them pull through it. And then there were other times where I had guys that they spent all this time creating this character. They put all this sweat and blood and tears into it. And they crafted this guy lovingly. And 2 sessions in, he was murdered. And that's what I loved about Cyberpunk, was just how violent and ruthless this game would get. And so, yes, Cyberpunk. I mean, I'm noticing, Ishi, when you had the page up that Vince put up that you shared.
Yeah.
I am seeing pictures of Gibson. Some of the stuff that he wrote, like Neuromancer and some of the other stuff.
Right.
And it's like, a man after my own heart. Because that's the stuff that I read when I was much younger. So fantastic.
Reminds me a little bit of
Cyberpunk
Shadowrun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Shadowrun was very similar, except you had kind of the magic side of things with Shadowrun, which is why I never really got into that one. I wanted to keep it more like what could actually happen. Like, shit, if I get if they develop an implant that it can go from my head to my hand to a gun.
Mm-hmm.
And what you could do with that, that your reflexes get just that much faster. That was the kind of stuff that always excited me when I was much younger. And so, yeah, Cyberpunk was always my go-to game when it came to role-playing games.
Same here.
Absolutely. Fantastic.
Indeed. We have a few questions in the chat for you from Red Crusader. His first one is, I had it up there.
Gotta scroll back and find
I gotta
it.
scroll back. Son of a bitch.
I believe it was what was your favorite Gundam show?
Oh yeah,
Me?
yeah.
See, this is the bad part. I'm not experienced in enough Gundam to actually even answer that question.
Oh, okay.
It's my wife who is the Gundam nut.
Gotcha.
And I guess just to make this listener jealous, when I first started dating her, I knew she was the right woman for me when I went into her bedroom and the entire wall was nothing but Gundam models she had built.
Shit, that's funny. Nice.
All
You're
right.
like, I have a winner.
Yeah, that was
Fantastic.
exactly it.
Okay. He also asked, "What's your?" Here, I'll throw it up. This one now that I have them in line here. What's your opinion on mech anime in general?
I grew up on it. I mean, I think it's a great genre. I feel right now that it's in kind of a confused state. It's kind of sad that the 80s produced some beautifully insane anime. And then the 90s, my God, it became an art form.
Yeah.
But right now, it's all CGI and it's kind of gone on the cheap and it's kind of lost its way. I'm sure at some point we'll get a revival or some sort of reinvigorating of the genre. But, you know, I grew up watching giant, you know, I don't think this quite counts as giant mech anime. I could be wrong, but Macross had a massive influence on me as a kid.
Oh,
massive.
yeah. Robotech, yeah.
And, you know, I was like everybody else. I liked Mazinga and, Voltron, and I watched all of that. Trying to think of any other properties specifically that stand out. Oh, the remake of Gigantor or Kaiju 88.
How about Evangelion?
You know what? That is one of those things where I just have never had the time to sit down and run the whole thing.
That wasn't too bad.
So I can't comment on that either. I don't know. Yeah. My anime collection is very, very mixed. You know, I've got Ghost in the Shell standalone complex. I've got just about everything Mamoru Oshii's ever done, like you know, the Wolf Brigade and Skycrawlers. Loved Paranoia Agent, Boogie Pop. There was what was it? Lane, Experiment Lane was amazing. The new remake of Vampire Hunter D, Bloodlust.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, all of it. That's kind of the angle I watch.
Cool. Now, obviously, we've talked about your H.P. Lovecraft history. Have you played the game at all?
I played one session, and unfortunately, then the group broke up.
Oh shit! All right.
I have a question for you, Ishi. When you, where we were, you know, I was kind of going off for a minute here about CyberPunk. When did you get into that one?
I kind of fell into it at a very early age. I think the first real exposure was as a real small child. KTLA in Los Angeles would play Escape from New York about twice a year. And they'd run it 4 or 5 times before, you know, they take it off the air. And that really stuck with me. It just looked so radically different than anything else I'd ever seen in terms of sci-fi. You know, this was the era of Star Wars, and everything was kind of like, you know, space opera. And then Escape from New York was totally different. And then, of course, I came across Blade Runner.
Oh, yeah.
And that was, again, it's just amazing. The imagery, just even as a kid, you know, I didn't quite understand it at, you know, 7. But, you know, at that age, it did have a real impression on me. Then I got a little bit older and was obsessed with Max Headroom 20 Minutes into the Future. And that is like so ahead of its time and so prescient.
Absolutely. I know for me, when I got into CyberPunk, it was probably around 89, 90 is when I first found out about it. I know it had been around for a couple of years before that because the first edition, or the prototype as I like to call it, was CyberPunk 2013.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and I never bought or got into CyberPunk 2013. Just that was kind of before my time. It was the 2020 that I got into because one of the, for lack of better words, but it's more than just a module, was Night City, where it came with a map and it had all the different sections, the corporate sector, the combat zone where all the real hardcore gangs hung out, all that kind of stuff. And it totally reminded me of Blade Runner, is what it reminded me of. And just the fact that it was the tech over the magic, I guess, or the I don't even know what you would call it. Just the kind of the mystical thinking.
Well, one, it was high-tech low-life, as I think what you're describing. The other thing is, and I think this is another element that kids just don't catch today, they're kind of getting into the genre, is back in the 80s and 90s, computers were still an esoteric thing.
Yes.
And people who were good with computers, especially hackers, were like these wizards who knew this secret knowledge that could, the language that could make the machines do what he wanted. And that isn't there anymore. It's so commonplace.
100%. I agree with you. There's things, it's funny you bring that up. Me getting into computers was probably more late 90s, early 2000s is when I first really realized, oh, wow, this is like a thing. Because when I was in college back in 90 through 94, of course, email existed, IIRC, internet relay chat, all that kind of stuff existed. But I made a prediction that was horribly wrong, which was, this is just a phase. And I can remember, and I'm sure some of you guys do too, Vince probably remembers, when you had to do everything on dial-up. And so you had to have your phone line. It took forever. Yeah, 56K modem. It took forever to download a music file, let alone video, which really more or less didn't exist at that time.
Yeah.
And I thought it was just, this is a thing. And what you're bringing up, Ishi, when you're talking about getting computers to kind of sit up and bark and do what you want them to do.
Right.
When I was doing that with Windows 98, all the way up to kind of Windows NT. Oh yeah, we're going back a ways, Vince.
Oh yeah,
I can remember when I was working for a call center and I wanted to get into their IT department. And they were asking me, well, what do you know how to do? And I started explaining, well, I can do this, I can do that. And they all kind of went and sat back and they were like, dude, you're a hacker. and I never thought about it that way, because I wasn't going out and hitting remote servers or hitting remote machines. I was just playing around with my own machine to see, like, well, can I get a different login screen versus the Windows 98 Microsoft logo and the music? Can I get it to do something else? But it's funny that Ishi brings that up, because that is kind of how a lot of people, at least, 20 fucking years ago, that's kind of how they looked at it. Is they looked at, if you could do anything to get your desktop, because this was even before laptops kind of became a thing, then if you could get it to do something beyond what Microsoft or Apple had designed it to do, as a package function, then you were a hacker. And that's part of the, to me, the appeal of CyberPunk 2020 with some of the different characters, besides the the guys that would be, you know, like the fixers and the God, what was that one that help me out here, man? I'm sinking.
Oh, the character classes?
Yeah, because there was the
was
fixers, which was kind of like, to me, was kind of like the guys that could get anything, the drug dealers, I guess.
See, I don't know too much about Cyberpunk, but I do know in Shadowrun, like the guys that ran the vehicles and whatnot were called riggers. And then the ones that went into cyberspace in a virtual world were called deckers.
What were they called in Cyberpunk?
Netrunners.
Netrunners. Thank you,
Netrunners.
Ishi. You saved my ass. That was the one that was like, oh God, you know, here these guys were talking about virtual reality and all kinds of different things where as a character, and you guys in the chat and guys watching this live or watching the replay, you have to understand, this was back in the late 80s, early 90s, that the net runners were the guys that they would literally like put their essence, for lack of a better word, into the internet, into the computer. And if they did cyber combat, if something happened where they had to fight another program or another person and they lost, they not only digitally died, but they physically died. A lot like the Matrix in a way, where there was parts where, you know, the like Neo and those guys where they were jacked into the Matrix and they kind of went out into the world that most of the normies know. But if they got shot in the Matrix and it was severe enough, it would actually kill their physical body. Same thing would happen to net runners. And it was so far ahead of its time is the only way I can describe it. So, yeah. Thank you for the memories. I love it.
Cyberpunk, yeah.
Yes.
Well, I cannot confirm this, but I've heard multiple sources claim that the Wachowskis, that the Matrix began as their own revision and retell. They essentially taking Cyberpunk 2020 and turning it into something else.
That's what it's funny you bring that up, because when I first watched The Matrix back, in 99, 98, something 99. Like that. Yeah. When the very first time I ever saw it in the theater, that's exactly what I thought. I was like,
oh shit, Cyberpunk.
This is Cyberpunk. This is the net runner. You know, that if we're going to split the character classes or whatever and kind of focus on only one, this is the one we're focusing on, is the net runner. And it's like, how funny is that I'm like, which it would explain why I probably liked that movie so much. Never mind the red pill, blue pill stuff that Neo and Morpheus did, but just the idea that it's like, wow, you could jack into this big computer mainframe and put your consciousness or whatever it is into it. But if something bad happened to you in that realm, it would affect your physical body, which is exactly what happens to net runners in Cyberpunk 2020. So it's funny you bring that up.
That's cool. Yeah, I've never played it. Like I said, I've played Shadowrun, which sounds suspiciously familiar.
Shadowrun is essentially, let's take Cyberpunk and cram D&D into it.
Yeah, you get the elves, the orcs, and the trolls, and a little bit of magic and shit. So yeah. Have you? I don't think Rob. Have you? Well, you're away. You're going to go take a piss, or do whatever. Ishi, have you ever played Shadowrun?
Oh yeah. I had the Shadowrun book, but I don't know. I did. It went over to Cyberpunk very, very quickly. I don't know. I wasn't really into the elves and orcs element to it. It just didn't really feel like they, merged them very well.
Yeah. It was a bit rough. But
I know that some people swear by it.
Yeah, I enjoyed playing. I ran games in the mid-90s. I started off reading the novels. That got me interested in actually playing the game. So I picked up the first edition. Still have it somewhere. My game screen and all the modules still floating around somewhere. Yeah. But I'm specifically right now focused on D&D. So right now, you running any games? Doing any games at all?
I wish. No.
Hmm.
There'd always been kind of a time issue, and I think now that that may become a possibility. Unfortunately, I don't really have a social life beyond talking to people on the internet. That may change once people start getting out of the house more. I live in Mesa, Arizona. I've only been here for a brief while, so I'm still new to the place.
Gotcha.
Okay. And one of the reasons I fled the nightmare failed state of California.
Many reasons. So many reasons to leave that state.
Arizonans who hear the cringe that I'm another Californian that moved to your state, don't worry. I won't vote like a Californian.
Yes.
Woo! Make sure you form the committee for any other Californians coming in there and say, look, by the way, you're on probation for 4 years.
Oh, it's sad. It is sad that you can walk by houses here and you can tell if you have somebody who came here begrudgingly because California failed.
Really?
Yeah, there's 2 houses in this neighborhood where they're obviously new residents. I'm guessing they're probably from San Francisco. Yeah, I might be walking a dangerous line here, but we'll see. You can tell me if I am.
Yeah, you're fine. We're good.
We walk by the house, and every time we go by, the entire driveway's chalked up with anti-Trump slogans, and all the windows have got like pro-Biden and pro-BLM stuff all over it, and they've got signs like Liberty, she's watching you, Trump, and it's a picture of the Statue of Liberty, and there's 2 houses like that here. And they both drive hybrids. And,
of course they do.
On 4th of July,
these things is not like the other.
4th of July was great here. I mean, it's a very low-key, very nice neighborhood. Everyone's got these beautifully maintained yards. It's a Mormon community, and I got to tell you, I don't know what the stigma is with Mormons. They seem to be the nicest people to live around, and they maintain their yards like you wouldn't believe. And when 4th of July comes, my God,
they put on a show.
Every freaking house had fireworks going in front. All I had to do was just pull out a chair and watch.
There were a lot of fireworks in this area. I'm out in New Jersey, and I've never in my entire fireworks listening and watching career, as it were, was inundated with. And you, James, you heard all the fireworks going off because there were. Right. I think there were 4 official locations in New Jersey that were doing staged fireworks. Public.
Right.
That's 4 places at how the entire state. So
that's the thing. We're out, you've been to my house. We're out here in the boonies. Like people set them off anyways here. I think the Atco Dragway sets them off themselves and stuff like that. It's always
everybody
out here.
Yeah, this July, everybody and their grandmother had fireworks going off. It was great.
But, as a punchline to this, the one woke house that I mentioned that was all done, that's always done up with bizarre, left-wing slogans all over the house, just making sure we all know where they stand. That was the one house, because we went for a walk and we were walking by and just watching all these different families out with their kids, putting on little shows, or in some cases at the parks, putting on big shows. And I'm like, my God, you guys must have some cash to afford this. But the one woke house, all the lights are out, and they just have their stereo speakers out the window playing Get Up, Stand Up by Bob Marley on a loop. It's like, come on, you guys, really? Really? You can't relax one day and just have a good time with your neighbors?
Seriously. Fucking retards.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
It is. It absolutely is.
It's Rob and I were just talking not too long ago about the insanity on Twitter and trying to you come up with certain words you want to block, so you kind of filter out your timeline from all the bullshit.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Rob, you have 35 words? You
35 words and 3 phrases. And my timeline, it's so funny because I follow about 150 some odd people. and and I see all their different things they got to say. I start popping in 35 words or like I said, like 2-3 phrases, and half, if not more, of my timeline goes fucking silent, because that's how much they're caught up. Because all of my phrases, I've brought it up to tease my followers on Twitter that it's like, what do you think I've muted? And they're bringing up shit like, trigger, semen retention, feminism, all this. And I'm like, wow, you guys
Semen
are way off mark, way off mark. It's all political. It's all political.
Yep.
But it shows me how many guys that I follow, and some of them follow me, just how much their lives are caught up in politics, because that's all they're talking about. Because over half of my timeline goes silent unless they decide to talk about something else. So it's worth it, because getting on Twitter now for me is a lot less stressful, because I'm not seeing the crap. Kind of like I'm seeing in the chat, they're talking about the vice presidential debates that are going on right now here in Salt Lake City, which is where I'm at. And yeah, okay, so Pence is here and Kamala's here or whatever. It really doesn't affect me, except for yesterday when I was downtown doing my job. And part of Main Street was completely blocked off because of the vice presidential debates. They had a section of downtown that was, quarantined basically to protect Vice President Pence and Kamala. And so it caused me a little bit of rerouting issues, that it's like, well, I can't turn here, I got to turn there. But otherwise, it wasn't huge. And initially, I didn't even know what the hell was going on. I was like, why are there 15 dump trucks lined up on this street? And why are there like 18 gazillion police officers and a bunch of guys in military gear? Oh, that's right. But
You cleared the timeline that well.
Well, that's what it was. I cleared it that well. Yeah, it's the idea that, like I said, I threw in some words that, yes, guys, there's going to be a Gumroad package for you that you can purchase for $15.99 that will tell you, put these words in your mute list forever, and Twitter becomes a breeze for you.
There you go.
So,
Do any of you remember the porn apocalypse earlier this year? Yeah, every indie creator was talking about porn, and we need to ban porn to save the kids, and we just need to ban porn. And it was the same tweet over and over again about we need to ban porn. I'm like, all right, I'm mute. Problem solved.
Pretty much.
I think if you put in the word non-binary, that might actually nix a whole bunch of posts.
That's probably a good idea. Non-binary, yeah. There you go. To make a
him,
new
her,
list.
she, she, her, that type of shit will do it too.
Were, yeah. Oh, that's too funny.
All right. So, any more questions, or?
I think the chat's pretty silent on questions as far as Aaron tried to get into the chat. I said no. We have a guest, so you're shit out of luck.
Oh,
so
gay hand is in the chat. Yeah, okay.
Yes. All right, so we talked about what you're working on. We talked about your podcast and your current show that's running now. What is it? Can you describe that again?
Well, it's just Ishiro Finney on YouTube, and we do a number of different things. Mainly, it's on Saturdays we do a show called Adventures in Awful, and again, it's just I find these YA fan books, these books by Marvel, DC, Disney, you name it, and she just reacts to reading these things. Then on top of that, there is, we're actually, I'm going to start doing a regular CyberPunk show in connection to that website I'm building.
Oh, okay.
To specifically, there's so much interest and I'm so versed in the subject. It's like, okay, no, I'm tired of all this bad information being put out. I'll do it myself.
Yeah, right. All right, so if I'm going over here to YouTube, Ishiro Finney, and you're not coming up.
Really?
Yeah. Share it out.
Okay.
Yeah, that's weird.
Let's try that. Or is it Ishiro? Let me check.
There's a period in between the J and I.
Well,
That might be
Oh,
screwing up. That might be screwing up your search function.
probably.
okay, it's J underscore. Oh, you know what? Jeez. Yeah.
J period.
Yeah, J period. Oh, there's no space between it, but that shouldn't cause you a problem. Here, this is the way it's written.
Oh, here we go. I see it. I'm subscribing now. Let me hop on here now. All right.
I also occasionally do a show called Ishi's Great Big Alien Show, which is completely humorous, and that was sourced out of. I was always introducing myself in the shows as Ishiro Finney, author and alien in a human suit, and the listeners kept it was just something I added in, mainly just because I feel kind of distant and alienated. And they wanted me to start doing shows as the alien, so I started doing them.
That's funny.
I'm decently versed in UFO lore, so I could carry it on.
Oh yeah. Okay. The link. Red. Just type in J period Ishiro Finney. God damn it, Rob. Go ahead. Type that in. Do your job, Rob.
Dude, McTubus already got it.
Where is it?
He said it. If you search for Ishiro Finney, it comes right up.
Okay, there you go.
It's like one of the last things he said in the chat.
It just came up for me. I didn't see
There you
that.
go. Right there.
There you go.
He's
There
got
you
it
go, Red.
covered. He's
Cool.
doing my job for me.
Fantastic.
And strangely, we're finding that one of the things the audience likes the most is just for us to go on and them to just start talking to us through the chat and getting us started on various subjects. And I'm not really sure why that is so popular, but it is.
Yeah, it's that personal touch, I guess, that people feel they feel connected to.
Lots of people haven't gone outside in a couple of months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, it's nice is in this state you can go outside, and masks it's not really enforced very strongly. You can go outside, you don't need a mask, and
No.
a lot of the stores it's only if they care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the cigar lounges I go to, the proprietoress is just like, fuck this shit. She's like, don't worry about that. She doesn't wear it. She doesn't care if anyone wears it. Completely. I'm like, this is I love this is great. Yeah. She's like, yeah, it's like the tobacco will get you. You don't need a fucking mask. Yeah. So yeah, it's like that in New Jersey. I mean, it's unless they'll still post the sign, but once you go in whatever store it is, it's like this is bullshit. I mean, it's up there for appearances, it's up there so they don't get fined. But there's quite a few places where like they don't give a shit. So, which is nice.
Cool.
Yeah, which I'm very grateful. Now, apparently, our governor is. What is he saying there, James? He wants to get it down to the cases down to 0 before he fully opens up.
0. I mentioned this last time I was on here.
That's
His
like
exact tweet was 0.
Fucking dickhead. That's like saying, you know what? I'm tired of common colds. We're going to get common colds down to 0, and then we're going to open up.
Yeah.
What?
Some percentage of people are going to nitpick you like, oh, the corona is more deadly than the common cold in case you would to wear. And I think that but it's like, hey, the principle is you can't stop the common cold. It's common.
Exactly.
It spreads. It's viral. It's a disease.
Mm-hmm.
Corona is viral. It's a disease. It spreads to people. You cannot get it down to 0. Listen, I think there's one social distancing guideline that we should abide by. It's the new social distancing guideline about what is it? I think it was something like 13 feet apart. Just imagine a guillotine in between you and the other person, and maybe Governor Murphy is inside for scale. In case you're having trouble visualizing.
Right. Have you heard his latest? This is this is supposed to be the latest bear, like 2020's end of bear season. You can't. There's no more hunting of bears in New Jersey, in which he doesn't have the power to do that. So why he's actually attempting? It's like no, the wildlife.
He just declared it.
He just declared it. You go check it out. Like it's stop pandering.
It starts in December. What the hell is he?
I know, right? And stop pandering to fucking activists, you asshole. It's unbelievable. The bears are the population in New Jersey is insane. People are
like
complaining.
coyotes.
Essentially, I mean, North Jersey has always been inundated with them. There's over the past few years, when I was growing up, I was in Scouts and even into the 90s, camping in the Pine Barrens. We never saw bear, beware of bears. Like what? No, that's North Jersey. This is South Jersey. The bears know they don't come down here. Well, guess what? Now they're down here in the Pinelands because there's so many of them.
Dude,
so these bear hunts, you need these bear hunts.
It used to be one family. It is now a few families behind Atco Raceway. I remember sometime when I was a teenager, like 80 years ago, because I'm an old man now. At the wise end was an age 23. There were
of a bitch.
There were bears walking through the town, and we're like, "What the hell is this?" There's only last time I checked, it's probably changed since then. Only like 4 counties that you can hunt bears in, and they're all the way up north.
Mm-hmm.
Last I checked, and maybe they've increased.
You can't hunt them down here. Not that I know.
Not down
unless that's changed. Yeah, but in North Jersey, this is going to be the last season. Supposedly, I think that that's going to get overturned. There's just no way that can stick. He doesn't have the authority to do that.
Control. It's like banning coyote hunting. It's like you idiot.
Yeah, I mean,
I got horses, I got dogs, I got cats, I got any local wildlife that I want to protect. The toddler around the street, like whatever. Like anything that I don't want to get damaged as a result of anything that we don't want damaged as a result of coyotes coming around. Can you imagine him banning that?
Yeah, and bears are not stupid creatures. It's like the grizzly bears out in Yellowstone. They were getting wise to the fact that coolers were being put inside cars, so they were punching out the windows to get to the coolers. So,
just get the food.
Exactly. Just here, just take it. So, Red Crusader asked me.
Oh,
we're gonna. It's at the an hour and a half mark. We're gonna call it. Are we going to do a MG cryptid hunt in the Pine Barrens? Absolutely. We're gonna do a Jersey Devil hunt if you guys come down here.
Hunt, baby.
That's right. So, that would actually be kind of a cool Masculine Geek meetup.
Yeah, we pay a prostitute like $30 to run around devil horns.
There you go, just with big tits and butt ass naked. There you go.
Exactly, and then we forget that she's there.
Yep.
We leave her in the woods.
All right, Amos is whining again, so let's throw him up over here. So Amos is more curious when we're doing the MG D&D one shot with the listeners. Yes, Amos, that is in the works. I still need to get with Drew on that, so have patience. It will happen before the end. It will happen before the end of the bear hunt. Okay, so just you're gonna make it in before the bears, so don't worry. Don't worry. All right, so yes, we're gonna call it a night here. That's the hour and 32-minute mark. We're gonna try to make our sessions, our episodes, broadcasts shorter. And a lot of you have the ADHDs out there, so I think the hour and a half mark is a sweet spot. So having said that, we're going to do some housekeeping. Ishi, where can everyone find you?
They can find me on Twitter at Ishiro, although I think until these riots end, I'm just going to be tweeting a lot of Tim Pool and Andy No, because I feel that needs to get out. People need to know what's going on. So I don't know how enjoyable that would be. I'm sorry, but people need to know. I mean, what's being said on the news is so counter to what's really happening. It's just insane. But then on top of that, you can find me at Ishiro Finney here on YouTube. And most importantly, look me up on Amazon.
Yes.
And same thing, Ishiro Finney or Josh Finney for my graphic novels.
There you go. Yep.
And if you get the name Jack Finney, that's not me. Go.
We were talking about that before we went live. Yeah. This is very good. This is the second one in the series. CASEFILE ARKHAM, where blood runs cold. This is fantastic. Pick this up. And even the shirt, softest, most comfortable shirt I've ever worn to date. So there we go. Cool. Rob, where can everyone find you?
robsays.net.
There we go. Just as it states under your name.
Straightforward and to the point.
That's right. James, let's see how straightforward and to the point you can be. Your turn.
Not whatsoever. It's astrocreativity.com. I post essays and blog posts there. And I think I'm going to try to signal boost the, no pressure, but I'm going to try to signal boost that CyberPunk website you mentioned.
Oh, excellent. Thanks.
Anytime.
Cool. Fantastic. And I'm at
you
Masculine.
Oh, sorry.
No,
Sorry.
go ahead. No.
Go ahead.
You write essays?
I do. I've been writing essays on tabletop stuff, on comics. I've been doing shorter blog posts recently. I took inspiration from TJ's I'll Be Brief page. It's a real thing, and it's really smart.
There you go.
Am I better at being brief than TJ? Probably not.
This new TJ is briefer than the last one.
Well, if you or any of you guys ever want to have articles or reviews integrated into the CyberPunk source code online, let me know.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Cool.
Absolutely.
I can see Rob and James doing that. Absolutely. Yeah.
You know what I've got? Okay, I've had this cooking for ages. A game called Remember Me, which nobody remembers. It's an anomaly in the history of the Earth. Nobody remembers it. It vanished from history. It's an excellent cyberpunk game, which I swear by, and that we'll talk. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, that is actually going to be on the list.
Hell yeah!
In the directory. That game is an anomaly. It was beautifully made. It had a few flaws, but that game is so underrated.
Absolutely. God, what a combat system. Oh, man, think about it again.
All right. James over getting the boner. All right. And you can find me at masculinegeek.com and more importantly, masculinegeek.life. Go sign up. And I know there was a question in the chat earlier. If you can sign up, try it out for a month and then cancel. Yes, you can. It's not like we force you into a whole year. It's month by month.
Shit. No, you sign up, it's for a year minimum.
Don't lie to people, Rob. As much as we'd love your subscription, we're not going to do that to you. So, but yes. Yes, Amos, it's TJ is the briefest of the brief. So at that, we're going to call it. Hope you've enjoyed meeting Ishiro Finney, Ishi.
Yes.
We've enjoyed talking with you. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. We'll have to have you back again when more projects get rolled out and we have more to discuss and banter about. So everyone, enjoy your evenings. Be ready for next Wednesday's live stream D&D game. And until then, keep the fires burning and keep moving forward. Well, have a good night.
Meow.